Hi there, my beautiful people. Um, if you're new to this channel, I want you to feel welcome. So, welcome. And you've tuned into a channel. I'm a druid. My name is Elias. I'm a druid and a witch, and what I call a spiritual weaver. And pretty much trying to find a sort of simple, balanced path through life. And I try to share that journey to whatever inspiration that might serve other people. I also do pick a card collective readings, among other things. And this is what this video is going to be about. Now, to all of you that are used to follow me and know me already, I want to say welcome back. Nice to see you. And to every single one of you, if this is useful, if you want to support the channel, if you want to support the work, then I mean, you know all the buttons and all the things that will actually benefit a small creator like myself. So whatever you can do to help that, I thank you. Today's video is going to be about pick a card readings, but it's not going to be an actual reading in and on its own. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tap into some various videos I've seen during the last couple of years where content creators get online and they talk about, these collective readings and deem them useless or deem them, to be scam, deem them to be, just fancy talk, stuff like that. I passionately disagree with that. And I'm not saying that because I'm a tarot reader. I realize that I can seem quite biased with that. I'm saying it because I do follow a few content creators myself that do collective readings, and whenever a notification pops up that they have just posted a collective readings, I instantly know which one to tap into and which one to leave alone. So one of them is Moon Magic. I think actually it's Moon Magic Weekly Tarot by Jenny. She's a British lady, and she is, for some reason, I am hyper connected. My intuition is hyper connected to that channel. So whenever she posts something, I know I don't follow every single reading that she makes because I don't want to cloud my intuition. I don't want to cloud the messages that I get. But I do know whenever I need to tap into a reading she makes, I know instantly, just from the thumbnail, which card I need to go with. So I passionately disagree that card readings, do not have a meaning, do not have a value, do not have clarity, do not have purpose. I believe they absolutely do. One of the things that can happen, I'm assuming, is one, maybe you're not connected to the right reader because chemistry matters, even, through a screen like this. That's one thing. Another thing can be maybe the connection is about your intuition. Maybe because I've seen some of these creators be like, oh, but I watched 10, 20 readings and, only one of them makes sense. If you watch 10, 20 readings a week or even just in a fortnight, I will dare to say that you are probably not tuning in from your intuition. Now, obviously, if those 20 readings work for you, then you got something good going. But that's really my point. If a reading doesn't do anything for you and consistently do not do anything good for you, then either consider finding other readers or consider, some rehearsals about, your intuition. Tap into that and try to look into where does your ego come into play in these readings, right? And then the final thing, and that is what we're going to dive a little bit into today, is at what point in the reading do you choose your card? At what point? Now, I know that not all readers allow for the entire process, but I'm just going to take you through, from the very beginning to actually seeing the cards. So before we start, I want you to consider something in your life that you would like to create an attention about, something you would like to get a message about, something that bothers you, something that maybe you're caught in a dilemma. I want you to really almost meditative, I can't say that word, meditatively tap into that specific intuition or that specific intention. Sorry. I want you to feel it as clearly, like you almost get images inside your head, or you almost get the emotion inside your body. I want you to be really specific about that intuition. I want you to sit with that for just a little bit. Have you got it? Have you got your intention? I'm sorry if I've called it intuition. Uh, they seem so alike, those two words, so I tend to mix them up. Have you got your intention right now? What is it that you want to go into the reading? If not, I want you to pause the video for a second because I'm just slowly going to proceed with it. So if you haven't got it yet, just pause the video and press play whenever you're ready. Okay? So you have your intention. You feel it, you see it, you know the question. If you have chosen a yes no question, I would like you to consider shaping that question into something that's a little bit more open than yes no, because that tends to be a little bit more helpful to your intuition. When you have your question, when you have your intention, now I'm going to pull 3 cards. I'm going to pull them. I'm just going to show you this. I'm going to pull them from this Folklore Oracle. Absolutely beautiful deck. I highly recommend it. I'm going to pull 3 cards from this deck. And when I say 1, 2, 3, which number draws you in the most? What is the number that kind of like highlights in your inner vision? What is, or your inner ear, which number is being shouted? Which number draws you in? 1, 2, or 3? Now at this point, I would very much like you, and some of you are probably going to laugh because you know me and you know that I'm highly, highly nerd, I guess you could say, about these things, because I pretty much always talk about getting a notebook or getting pen and paper. So I'm going to ask you to do that. Get a pen and paper or something that kind of tells you, I chose this number. Okay? So, because I promise you, our egos can be extremely persuasive. And if you chose number 2 and at some point about, oh, maybe it was number 1, and then you think it was number 1, but it was actually number 2. So I really want you to, the number that you found, I want you to somehow write it down, or make it visible to yourself within the next minutes. Okay? So have you got your number? 1, 2, 3. Again, if you haven't got your number yet, press the pause and press play whenever you're ready, because I'm going to proceed. So what we're going to do now is we're going to draw 3 cards. Now remember your number. Now usually I would have the camera this side down, but I think I'm just going to go with, at least for a while, I'm going to go with the camera like this. Camera, I say, it's actually my mobile phone or cell phone, depending on where you're from. That was card number 1. So if you chose card number 1, that card is already on the table, and now card number 2 is on the table. Now we're looking for card number 3. I think we're going to go with this one. So we have card number 1. Card number 1 is walking, whose voices are raised alongside yours. Let me just show you here. This is what the card looks like. Okay? So this is your card. Those of you that chose card number 1, this is your card. And we have card number 2. We have moon faces. How can you radiate light in the dark? Looks like this. This card is for those of you that chose number 2. Okay? And then we have salt. What requires your protection? That looks like this. And that's for those of you that chose card number 3. Now, I want you, as best as possible, I want you to put a line on your piece of paper. Write down what your card was. Number 1 was walking, Waulking, whose voices are raised alongside yours. That was card number 1. Write it down. Those of you that chose card number 2, you had card number 31, moon faces. Oh, the first one was card number 5, by the way. 31, moon faces, for those who chose card number 2. How can you radiate light in the dark? Now, again, write it down. And for those of you that chose card number 3, you have 40, salt. What requires your protection? Now, when you've written that down, I want you to put a line on a piece of paper. And now I'm going to put up a picture of these cards. And I want you, as best as you can, with the intention set in your mind, the intention you had from the get-go, I want you to look at the picture that I put on screen now and determine which card resonates the most with you. Here's your picture. Now I understand this is a bit of an artificial way of doing it, but write down the number of the card, number 1, 2, or 3, that resonated the most with you now that you have the visual. For some of you, it's going to be the same number. For those of you that has the same number, I want you to sort of close your eyes for a bit and ask yourself, did you choose the visual same number because you were loyal to your first choice, or did you choose it because that image actually resonated with you? The difference between the two can be maybe slightly different, but if you chose the card because you were loyal to your first intuition, but actually felt more drawn to something else, then there was a little part of you that you chose to ignore. Now, I'm not saying that card number one, if that was the one you chose, I'm not saying that your card is wrong per se. I'm just saying that be aware of why you chose the same card, because that answer in and on its own actually holds some extra meaning to an entire reading. Okay? Then there's going to be some of you that, for instance, chose card number two, card number three, but when you saw the visuals, you chose something else. Again, I want to ask you, did you choose something else because maybe some of you thought that, oh, maybe there's a little trap here, I'll choose something else so that, our ego works in mysterious ways. Again, tap into why did you choose that? Now, with your intention, now that you have the visuals, you chose another card than the original choice. Why do you think that is? Now, of course, depending on how well in touch you are with your intuition, this is my personal point of view, and it's just how I experience it myself. But when you choose the number without knowing the visuals, whenever I tap into, for instance, Jenny's readings, Moon Magic with the Tarot, when I tap into those, I prefer to choose the card at the point of, where I see the thumbnail, because at that point I can't really see the image and I certainly can't see the text. So that gives me an as clean, pure connection to intuition, because I personally struggle a little bit with just choosing a number without knowing anything. I need to have some sort of visual representation, but I also need to not have too many words connected to it. So I tend to prefer to choose from the thumbnail, and that's usually where it just happens naturally and most organically for me. But it can be different for you. I'm actually kind of curious, how many are comfortable choosing from, just numbers, and how many are comfortable or most comfortable choosing with, just, a slight visual representation, and how many want, some text and stuff. So, whatever you feel comfortable sharing about this process, please write down below, because that also teaches me a lot about, you know, how to make my own readings, and if there are any precautions I need to take when I do my own collective readings for you as the collective. Now, how I see it is that when you choose a number, that is in some shape or form your deepest intuition on a level where it's almost subconscious. It's maybe even a blind side. There's something here that it's going to maybe surprise you. Okay. And my personal experience about when we choose, when we have the visuals and we have the text, is that a little bit of our ego actually takes over. Even from the point of a thumbnail, because there are colors, there are shapes and stuff like that that kind of draws us in. It's important to be aware of what it is that draws us in. And I'm going to pause here for a second, because when I held up the cards and I gave you the opportunity to choose your own card, do you remember what popped out to you in the card that you chose? Again, if you're comfortable sharing, any experience with this video and the cards and testing your intuition, I would love to read it, really. What popped out to you? What stood out? What kind of drew you in? For instance, let's just take the Sword card. What drew you in about this card if this was the card you chose? Was it the circle around the head? Maybe that's not even very visible. Was it the wave beneath? Was it the way the person sits? Was it the word salt? Maybe. Now, there are so many things that we tap into and connect, and it's one of the reasons why when I start doing collective readings again, I've been having a bit of a break, and when I start doing collective readings again, I'm going to be a little bit more adamant about tapping into, or explaining how you can not just listen to the reading I make, but actually make the reading yours personally. I'm going to try to do that in as many videos as wherever it makes sense. So, because I think that's a very, very important bit of the collective reading journey, that is including yourself in the reading, not just sitting and listening and accepting everything for what it is, because it can't be. A collective reading goes out to hundreds, thousands, maybe even people. And it's just not probable that every single one of those persons would relate one to one to everything I say about a card. So there's going to be some messages within that card that is for you, and there's going to be some messages that are for others. And that is another place where your intuition comes into play, because if you just sit back and say, oh, but he said this at that point and he said this at that point, then you're not tapping into your intuition. I think maybe I'm going to do a few videos about intuition, because I know that we're a lot of people that are new to spiritual journeys and spiritual paths. And I think that intuition connection is probably one of the most important things you can train in your practice, in whatever way you practice. But that's, yeah. If you want to know whenever anything like that comes up, you just follow that bell icon and all of that technical things. I'm 48 years old, so I feel like I would have benefited if I had gone on to this channel about 20 years earlier, because then I'd probably be a little bit more adept at all the technical things, but it wasn't supposed to be that. So, your intuition is your key tool to your spiritual journey. It cannot be underestimated how important a tool that is. So, again, what made you choose when you saw the cards from a visual point of view? What was it that kind of stood out to you? As I said, I believe that just choosing a number before the cards are even pulled, for me, that talks about a sort of hidden level, whereas choosing from the visuals, a little bit of your ego comes into play. And that's why I talk about what stood out to you, because that's the thing that your ego noticed. That there was some sort of connection there in terms of your intention, in terms of the questions you were holding or the dilemma you needed solving. Within that card, within the thing that stood out, there was something there that resonated. And those details are the important ones. Now, there may be other, good details coming from the card, but those details, if you go into a collective reading, and let's say you go into one of my readings and you hear me talking about, for instance, the card of salt, and rambling on about how to uh, keep in line in your work environment or something like that, if your intention is not about work, then at first glance, that reading is going to seem a little bit off, right? So here it's important to notice, what did I actually notice with that card that made me choose it, and what do those things symbolize to me? What do they remind me of? And how is that connected to what my intention is? Now, there may very well be things that I talk about in that reading that can be translated, for instance, from a work environment to something more in terms of romantic relationship, if that's what your intention is. Then typically it can be translated. And in that point, there may be, or that way, there may be things that I say that actually resonate when you first shift it from a work frame to a relationship frame, then it actually makes sense. But I never ever want you to underestimate what your eyes and what your intuition taps into. Any collective reader may never have so much power over your process that you disregard what your own intuition tells you. Okay, that's very important. Your intuition is your most important tool. So, this was a little bit about how you can tap into collective readings, how you can sort of train your intuition. Now, I'm going to put a few, collective readers in the is it, I think it's called description here on YouTube, isn't it? I'm going to put a few links to some of my favorite creators, and I would like to invite you to go visit them. If you want to look at some of mine, I'd be proud if you would. But I also really want to make, a bit of a shout out to some really great creators out there. So yeah, tap into them. I know White Feather Tarot is also going to be one of them. And check out a few readings, check out what resonates, and if working with your intuition is new for you, then try to sort of test the things that I've said right now. If you go into a reading where the cards aren't pulled yet and you know there's going to be free cards, try to sense which number speaks to you and write it down. And then when the cards are pulled, write the new number down. If it's a new number, if it's the same number, write the same number. And then notice what pops out in the visual. Do a few readings like that. When I say a few, I'm really like, if you feel indifferent to the thumbnail of a video, I will not advise you to go into that reading, because it's probably not going to be fruitful in any way. So go into readings that actually pulls on you a little bit, that actually draws your attention, and then try it out. Try out how does your intuition feel like when it starts working for you, because that is actually when the connection really starts. That is when you start to know how your intuition feels. Okay, so I've been rambling a bit. I hope this helped you. I hope this inspired you. I hope this resonated with you. And as said, I'm going to restart doing collective readings again. I've had a bit of a downtime, and I'm going to start doing readings again. So if you don't want to miss anything, if you don't want to miss anything about, the Druid path and videos like this, where I try to sort of go, from behind the scenes kind of things about the spiritual path, then follow, hit the bell icon, comment, every little thing helps. And yeah, I certainly do hope it helped for you. I hope it gave you a few tips and ideas on how to meet these collective readings. Let me know if this helped you, and until next time, my dear friends, have a very, very blessed time, and thank you for stopping by. Bye. Hi there, Elias from the future here. If you've just picked a card and you kind of had look forward to sort of an actual reading, then fret not, it's actually made. It's just that, well, a matter of multiple things actually, because my mobile phone ran dry for storage, so I had to fix that. And when I fixed that, I actually forgot I hadn't done the entire reading, so I uploaded the video, and one thing led to another, and suddenly, as I was making the sort of editing to part 2 with the actual reading, I remembered that maybe there would be some of you that were like, what the fuck, I chose a card and nothing happened. So this is me checking in from the future, just to let you know that while this video may seem to be finished, and technically it is, but there is actually a part 2 where I do the readings to those 3 cards. And if I figure out how to technically do so, around my face somewhere there will be a little frame pointing you in the right direction. If not, if I fail miserably at the technical stuff, you will find the link in the description to this video. So yeah, that's how things go sometimes. So if you picked a card and you feel very, connected to that card and really want, sort of the message that I read into it and the further cards that I pulled for it, then go check part 2 wherever you find the link. So yeah, again, thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of this, and I promise someday I will get more eloquent and better at what I'm doing right now. But yeah, have a little patience. So yeah, check out the readings, and we'll see you another time. Bye.